Hi everyone. As you can probably tell, I am what you might call a seasoned or mature quilter. I've been making quilts for many years. I've forgotten exactly how long, but it's been probably 40 years. And in that time, I've learned a few things about fabric buying, and using fabric, storing fabric. So I thought I'd give you a couple of things that I've learned in my time. I do not work for any quilt shop or anything like this. This is not, I just work for myself and make quilts. But I often get questions about how much fabric should I buy? Should I get this? Should I not buy that? And so I thought I would let you know what I do. And sometimes I do have a little bit of a problem with fabric buying, but we might get into that in a minute. My first tip for fabric buying, per se, if you're needing to get fabric because you're going to start a new quilt, I always tell anyone that's starting out, it's best to get the best quality fabric that you can get for what you can afford. And the best quality fabric is usually available most of the time at your local quilt shop. Now, I don't know, I don't do a lot of shopping online, but you might be able to find something online. But the big box type of stores, the hobby stores, they have fabric, but their fabric is not the same quality as your local quilt shop. And that's why it's quite a bit cheaper. The local quilt shop has fabric that is very good quality. The beginnings of it is it's much better quality. So if you're making a quilt or a jacket or a bag or whatever, if you don't have quality fabric, oftentimes the sun will fade it very fast. It will fade in washer and drying, whatever. So I just suggest whatever you can afford, get as good as you can afford when you're shopping for fabric. Then, and that also is a tip for buying thread. At the local quilt shops and online, you can get quality thread. But I have a Bernina sewing machine. My Bernina sewing machine will not work with some of the cheaper threads that are available at the big box stores. Especially thread that is like sew all thread that you can use with hand sewing, machine sewing. It just doesn't work as well. So I always buy thread and buy my fabric at my local quilt shop. We have a lot of good quality quilt shops in my area, and hopefully you can find some in yours too. Fabric buying is sort of an individual affair. What I would buy at a quilt shop would be totally different from what this person or that person or another person would buy. And the amount that I buy might be a little bit different too, because I don't walk in there with often with a special pattern in my hand and say, okay, I want this much and this much and this much. But if you're a new quilter and you have a pattern that you want to make a quilt for, if you look on the back of the pattern or on there, there's always a fabric requirements page, and that will give you ideas for what you need for your quilt. And usually they're pretty accurate. Sometimes when I would be looking when I was new, I would get a little bit extra just in case I made a mistake, you know, and oftentimes that's not hard to do. I mean, not hard to make a mistake, and it's not hard to get a little bit extra. If you are unsure about what fabrics you want to get, maybe you want to get this pattern and you want to make this quilt looking like what's on the picture, it's always good, if you're not sure, ask the person at the quilt shop, because those people have been doing it for a long time. They know how to help you out. They will help you get started and also maybe give you some suggestions as far as how much to get. So go with them. They know what they're doing and they can be a big help for you. I usually, if I'm going to make a quilt and I have an idea that I'm going to make a star quilt and I'm going to use lots of different colors in it, I usually will buy, if it's the background or it's going to be used in the border of the quilt, if I'm making a good size quilt, I will buy enough of what I think might be the outer border. I will buy 3 or 4 yards because I want to have enough in the length to cut borders that are on the length of the fabric. So if I'm making even a 72-inch long, that's not a really big quilt, but 72 is 2 yards. So if you're thinking about using that for your border, I would probably get 2.5 to 3 yards so that I would have plenty to make 2 long borders on the sides. Also, if I really like the fabrics that I am seeing, I'm thinking about using them in a quilt, if it's for a background or something, I often will get a yard or a half yard of several different colors that I really like. If I am thinking about just using lots of different scraps, I might get fat quarters. Fat quarters are good if you're going to use several of them to make, a scrappy look. Also, if they don't have a fat quarter of something, I will often get 1/3 of a yard. 1/3 of a yard is enough. It's enough to do something with a bigger block, because it would be 12 inches this way and then 40 that way. So you've got quite a good size. If you get 1/4 of a yard, you're getting 9 inches. A lot of times we may want a bigger square cut out of that. So I usually get 1/3, and then I can handle lots of different size requirements in the pattern. If you're interested, or if you like to use the pre-cuts that are in the fabric store, that's a great way to get lots of different pieces of fabric to use in a quilt. I don't often do it simply because I often find if it's a cool fabric that I like, I'll try if I had one here, some of the bigger print fabrics may not, I can't find anything here that has that kind of look to it. Okay, here's a piece of fabric, and maybe I want to cut out a certain motif from some fabric. Well, if you get a 5-inch square, sometimes the squares will be right where you want them, and sometimes they'll be somewhere else. And it's the same thing with a layer cake or different cut fabrics. They just don't always give me the spot that I want out of them. But if you're just starting out and you're just going to be sewing a few different colors together, it won't bother a thing. Okay. Oh, when you're buying fabric, a lot of people ask, do you wash your fabric? Do you not wash your fabric? I love batiks, and I often buy batiks. I wash fabrics, especially red fabrics and dark fabrics, even batiks. I will wash them in my sewing machine. I will wash them in my washing machine and put a color catcher and stuff in there at least before I start on a project. Even if it's red, dark purple, or dark blue, dark black, I wash them. But anything else, I'm not too worried about it, and so I don't really wash it. If you like to wash, go ahead and wash. When you get your fabrics home, if you're really a good person and you are organized, you might want to store your fabrics in a nice little way. And here's one way to do it. You can take your fabrics and fold them up all nice and neat. And this is one of my purples boxes. So I have my purples all in here. Now this is just little scraps of purple, but I have them all nice and neat in this box. I intended to do that for all of my fabric boxes, and I haven't got that done yet. But I do have the purples done, and I have a couple of others. When I store my fabrics at home, because this room is only as big as it is, not very big, it's tricky. I have a closet over here that is full of fabrics. Ta-da! And I think the pink box is all sorted nice and neat. I keep thinking about the others, but then I have other things that come into play. I do like to kind of sort my fabrics into colors, and they used to be like light greens, dark greens, medium greens, and I think now I think I may have actually 4 blue boxes. So it's good if you can keep them in some order. I do also put my I really like dot fabric. So here's one box, just dots fabric. I have one in the closet that's just striped fabric. And that way, if I want specific dotted fabric, I can go here. As you can see, I do have a problem buying fabric. There's fabric in these boxes. There's fabric in that. There's fabric in these drawers, and I'm not sure whether I'll ever use it all. But I've told my kids, hey, something happens to me, you can find one of my quilting friends, and they will know how to deal with this fabric business. But I am of the opinion, what's wrong with buying what you like? If you don't use it, what I don't really use, or if I buy 3 or 4 yards of fabric, and I do have a special place. Some of these drawers are for when I found a big hunk of fabric, and so I bought maybe 3 yards of them. And if I don't use them, and if I don't use them on the back of a quilt, it's okay. Somebody will get to use those somewhere. And like I said, if they don't get used up in my lifetime, maybe somebody else will be able to use them in theirs. So I hope that helps give you an idea of fabric shopping. And if you have any other questions, you can always put them in the comments, and I will help you out as much as I can. Meanwhile, we just need to have fun with whatever fabric we have.